What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to Let's Build the U.S.S. Enterprise A 2.0 Season 1 Episode 11. I'm Zero Elite, and I just want to thank you very much for tuning in today's episode. And if you haven't, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, helping me in supporting the channel. I can't thank you guys enough for that. Today we've got about a 16-minute episode where we'll be picking up right where we left off. We're going to be doing some work on our neck. We're also going to be shifting gears, working on our saucer, and then we'll be working on the deflector dish, and then we'll wrap it up with the saucer. So without further ado, let's kick back, relax. We're going to dive right into this thing. And basically what we're going to do up here in the neck, we're just going to transition this up, same pattern. We're going to go with a row of 4 following our cuts. So we're going to be going up 1 with our cut line. So as long as you're following your pattern, your cut, you're in good shape. No mistakes can be made. And, you know, like I've been saying, if you do encounter one, go back, double check your work. Mistakes happen to anybody, you know. But we're looking pretty good here. We're making some pretty steady progress on this build, all things considered, that we're already up to episode 11. I'm not sure how many episodes season 1 of the Enterprise A will end up being. I don't know if it's going to end up being a very long one, because like I just said, we're already up to this point in the builds. We're not usually this far along, so we'll have to see how that's going to go as the tutorial series goes on, and I put more episodes together. I'll have a better idea of what we're going to land on. Now see, that looks pretty good, and the reason I wanted to progress that up by 1 more cut is because I'm trying to anticipate how that's going to go when we blend in the neck with the bottom section of the saucer. So off that front point, we're just going to bring that going all the way forward until it meets that ring, and we'll be in good shape. All right, so now we're going to be shifting gears over to the top of the saucer. You can see at first I start with the light gray concrete. This is what we're going to set on. I think this regular gray, it just looks a little bit too dark. There's only like 1 or 2 areas on this era of ships that I like to use this really dark color on, and that's primarily the pylons, and maybe 1 or 2 details on the bridge. Other than that, I think this gray will be reserved more for the Next Generation era movies, because you have a lot more of that darker line work, like on the Sovereign class and Miranda class, not the Miranda, yeah, the basically the new version Miranda class. I forget what they call it, but you can see those dark lines in it. But we're going to be doing that light gray. We're going to be going all the way around. Once you've completed that step, then we're going to fill in the first progression line on our saucer. So we're going to fill all this in until we get to that next ring, as you can see. I'm not going to do all of this live, just going to start it out so you guys can see exactly how I'm doing this. I'm not building underneath that ring, stopping it right before. And we're going to do that going all the way around. So this way there's no gaps, but we're also not impeding underneath it, just in case we decide to use that ring at a later date. Now this step right here, we're actually going to skip, because we're going to come back a little bit later in this episode and I'll show you what I mean. But do not add that layer of the half slabs going around that first progression ring on the top of our saucer. I left it in because I'll show you guys what we're going to do here to edit. So alright, we're on the very back of our saucer. You see I've gone 1 down with a cut, and I'm doing the regular gray, and I did the second to top row, and then I did the bottom row. I just brought that straight across to that first cut line, and now we're going to bring it back to the second cut line, and then the third. All right, we're going to do the same thing on the left side. trying to get an idea of how eventually where the impulse engines are going to go, how that's going to look. Also, our line work for our saucer. If I'm not mistaken, actually, I think that is our line work for our saucer. I can't believe I just said that. But we're going to come back to that. We're going to be shifting gears here just a little bit to work on the deflector dish. Now the deflector dish I ended up getting done pretty quickly. However, there is going to be, I believe, one revision that we are going to make to it. And that's just going to be to make it look a little bit closer to how the deflector dish looks on the original Constitution class refit. So I say, you know, adding in a little bit more of those design cues from that version and incorporating it into the template that we have for the Star Trek Beyond Enterprise A is going to help to make it feel basically more how it should, in my opinion anyway. Because I've talked about this a little bit in the past, but I think my primary issue with the Enterprise A when I see it is that it looks like just a redesigned Constitution class from TOS. It doesn't look like the Constitution class refit. If anything, the Enterprise from the Star Trek 2009 looks more like a Constitution class refit than the one that came after. So we're looking pretty good here, and you can see I'm just following my cut lines using the line work that we have established. I did add in 4 blocks in each of the corners just to help me out with my cut lines to maintain more of that circle shape and not have that outer ring be more square-like. So that was the whole purpose of adding those into the 4 corners. You can see same thing down here at the bottom. Just trying out some different things. Some of you might say, Zero, how can you do this? You're going against your own rules here in your cut lines. And, you know, very true. But I've learned from the Excelsior 2 class, sometimes you do have to veer away from your templates. It's going to happen to you. If I can, I try to avoid that as much as possible. But like in this case right here, making these little changes, it's going to help to maintain the circles. Now, I don't like those 4 what we just did there. Because staying within continuity and how the deflector dish looks, it doesn't have any white like that. So that might set it off a little bit. So we have to make the decision there. Is that really what we want to do? We're going to let it marinate for right now. We're going to keep this going. You can see I'm going in one with a cut. And I'm going to do the same thing that I did before. Even though I'm not sure how that's working out. Now, just to say that we did, and going through that process elimination, what if we just make all those blue instead of the white? Now it maybe won't glare out as much. So that's an option too. So I always say, you know, you got to be willing to try out some different things. That's been my experience in building in Minecraft. It's such a resource in helping you to make your builds so much better, because you will stumble upon greatness at times with that if you're willing to try out different things. Because it's just going to come down to what the problem is and the different things that you can try to work up a solution to counter that problem. And these problems are going to be easier to solve as you go on from build to build in Minecraft. But really, the main thing what it takes is planning out ahead of time. Yes, I do wing everything that I'm doing as far as how I'm building this, but I'm still planning out what I'm going to do ahead of time. And basically, my process to go into that is I just think about what I want to do. I don't put anything to paper, I don't make any diagrams or anything like that. I have one or two times drawn out what I want just to have like a visual. That can be very helpful. But yeah, like as far as a blueprint goes for these, that's not something I have. Maybe that could be something that's addressed down the road, but I haven't really figured out a way that I can do that without it being just a massive, massive amount of work. And I'm not sure that the payoff of that would really be all that worth it. But I don't know. We'll see. I'm kind of happy with the structure that I have in place for these tutorials. There's a lot of things I want to change to make them better, but I'm still pretty happy with the progression that I'm making on these. I'm noticing a lot less questions. People are seeming to get the builds a lot easier, and you know, there's going to be that trial and error period with me. You know, it's just the way it is, because like I said before, you know, if doing these was so easy, you'd see a million tutorials out for them. It's not so easy explaining out what you're doing, going over your thought process and everything else. But I think we're doing pretty good. But if you guys do have any feedback for me, any things you think I can improve, I definitely love hearing that feedback, as long as you're not mean about it. Just take that in mind, because if you start acting that way, I'm just not going to respond to you, and I'm just going to mute you on the channel and be done with it. But I am all for constructive criticism. Now, I'm not sure how I feel about this gray strip that I just added here in the front. That's something to be desired. I'm not sure I'm really feeling that. But we're going to try it out. Now, instead of just making that whole front gray, I want to mix it up a little bit, and you can see that last row I'm making the white concrete, but directly behind that I'm adding a gray line just to add in some texture, so the ship doesn't look so plain. And you'll want to do that for the other side as well. Okay, so now we're going to start filling in some of the lower side of the saucer now. And it's going to be the same meal deal as before. We're going to bring this up from the back. On that same row, we're going to bring it right up to that circle, but we're not going to build over it. We're going to stop one before it, so that this way we can maintain that circle just in case we need to use it later, like as an example for circular corridors. That's definitely something that we can do. But yeah, you're going to want to do this going all the way around, except for within the actual neck of the ship. That we're not gonna we don't want to fill that in. You want to make sure to leave that opened. And just that first initial line, the three of them, we're going to delete that, our x-axis point, so we're start to clean that up just a bit. All right. Now in the bottom row here, we are going to follow this step with the half slabs. We're about to actually go back to it on top, and I'm going to get into that a little bit more. But at least on this bottom section of the saucer, we are going to follow this step. Basically what I did, I didn't necessarily fudge up. I just made the decision that my progression line on the top of my saucer was progressing up a little bit too high. Because you don't want to have it to be too tall, because what you end up having, what ends up looking a little bit like a dreidel more than a saucer. So that's something to take into consideration. So what we're going to do here, you can see I've gone to the next circle in, and I'm just going to build that down by 1 block. So we're not editing this ring, we're just bringing it down by 1. And you're going to want to do this going all the way around. I'm going to show you guys how we can adjust the progression on our saucer a little bit. Alright, so now we're going to do the same thing with our first progression ring on the top. We're going to do that light gray, and we're going to be building just 1 block down to maintain that ring, and we're going to do that going all the way around. Alright, looking pretty good. I'm not going to build all that out live, just wanted to do enough that you guys can get the gust of it. So now what we're going to do, we're going to come back, and now we're going to delete those half slabs I told you guys not to build. And then we're going to delete that first ring. Then we're going to come in to the next progression line in the ring, and we're just going to delete the top row only. So basically what we're doing, we're just moving down our transition point down by 1, and we'll fix the remainder of the saucer in the next couple of episodes. But anyway, I think that's going to do it for me today. We shot through 16 minutes like it was nothing. But I just want to thank you guys again for tuning in today's episode. And if you did enjoy this content, if you can help me out, the best thing you guys can do for me is hit that like and subscribe button, help me supporting the channel. Drop a comment below. Definitely love hearing from everybody. All this stuff really helps my channel to grow and to get better. Anyway, I think that's going to be it for me today. And I hope everybody has a happy and safe week. And of course, what did you make in Minecraft today? Post your photos in the Discord.